Welcome back, and we continue our coverage of the first day of the important conference taking place in the new administrative capital, A Story of a Nation, between vision and achievements, to shed more light on the sessions and what took place yesterday. We are very much delighted to have with us via phone Dr. Zenab Sadek, Professor of Economics. Thank you very much for being with us, Dr. Zenab.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much. Good morning, my dear.
Dr. Zenab, let's start immediately with the important messages which were sent by the President, particularly in his comments after each speech of the ministers and, of course, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, who addressed the conference yesterday, whether in its inaugural session or in the sessions which took place throughout the day. The head of a state mentioned the word stability more than once, and he emphasized the importance of stability, and this is the very first positive, important step to pave the way for investors to come and to have confidence in Egypt as a platform for investing and to put more foreign direct investment here and to invest their capitals in various domains and in various fields by the ground. If you want to elaborate on that.
Yes, of course. The President had mentioned several times the importance, which is very important actually, the stability and how that stability would actually lead to welfare and economic development, because if you don't have a stability in the community or the country, it will be impossible to do any work or to do any economic growth or plans or even future plans. So actually, it was one of the main messages that the President had just repeated several times, which is very important also to be said, and to also clarify that we are living now in a world which is full of worldwide crisis, and this is one of the biggest challenges that the economy of Egypt is dealing with. So, unfortunately, we have to deal as a country and as the economy with all of these crises, which was clarified clearly, actually, by the President and by the Prime Minister also along the event, that we have a lot of unpleasant events because of the international conflicts that we do have, and we have to deal with it as a society and as a government. And also, this is very important. Also, the President highlighted that it is important to continue in the project that we are working on, because there is no way out. You have to continue on the developmental work and on the projects. Otherwise, we will be all the time facing with troubles and crisis, worldwide crisis, and we have to deal with it, and also we have to continue in the development and in the project.
Taking into account that many of these crises are global crises and they are out of our hands. I mean, the whole world is suffering. I mean, yesterday the U.S. Government was about to shut down. I mean, there are things which are global, which are considered global phenomenon. I mean, it's not directed to certain people or certain area, certain region. But Dr. Zenab,
this is the crisis of the world, you know, because I'm a professor of political economy. Unfortunately, this is the crisis of the greatest economies, and this is due to the clashes that they had created and the disturbance that we do have worldwide. So they are the main reason of that. So unfortunately, this is the crisis that they had created for the rest of the world, and we have to deal with that.
As a professor of economics, Dr. Zenab, have you expected that this is going to be the case with the conference? I mean, to know all these details in numbers and to have all the graphics and all the statistics which were mentioned by every minister and in every speech?
Yes, definitely, because number one, the government should be very transparent and very, what we can say, that they should explain everything in details, because we have a lot of issues in the details. So,
but I mean,
I do agree with that. I do agree with the way that they had presented. But I will tell you something. When they used to explain the numbers and the figures, also they had explained it in a simple way. So they had explained it in two different ways. Number one, using the graphs and numbers for academic and for who are interested just to know the figures and numbers and to know the reality of the things and the numbers and what is behind the numbers. And also, they had explained things in a very simple way. Also, this is what the President had done for the common people to understand and to grasp the problem. So the problem had been explained in two different ways, which is very good. And also, the president was very transparent in clarifying the problems, and also the government also was very transparent in that. And this is what we are seeking for this time of crisis, that to explain and re-explain the problems. So
because if this is the story of our nation, the political leadership is keen to let all the citizens being involved into this story. Building the future of this country is going to be implemented on the ground or drawn on the ground by the hands of all of us, not only the governments, not only the ministers, not only the executives, but with every citizen. You mentioned a very important word, which is transparency. And because of that, in all the comments of the president after all the speeches, he said that you all speak about the achievements, I will speak about also the problems and challenges. And he mentioned infrastructure, for example. He said there are many countries who had millions of fedend ready to be reclaimed, but simply because of the poor infrastructure or the infrastructure development or innovation, which is going to cost millions of dollars, those countries cannot do that. On the contrary, what we are doing here is to develop and renovate our infrastructure to be able to implement national mega projects. How do you see the comparison, and how do you see the message which was sent in this very short and to be more accurate example?
Yes, yeah, I'll say something. The president had been talking about the infrastructure projects that have been also done for the poor through decent life initiatives and through different types of infrastructure projects. I'll tell you something. It's true. It's by true in all means, and from observation, we know that we used to have a problem in the infrastructure projects and in the quality of the infrastructure, and also what we can say in the coverage of the infrastructure projects and important infrastructure projects for the poor areas, for drinking water, for sanitation, for example.
Yeah.
So having this edge and working on hugely on this project, it will like transform Egypt into another, what can say, into different platform, into different areas, and also this will be the ground for attracting FDIs, the ground for the work of the national companies. So without the proper infrastructure and proper services, unfortunately, you will not be able to deal with the international challenges, not be able to deal with the and to attract the knowledge and up to the standards companies.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with the changes, and you have to deal with the world that is running heavily in every type of services. And if we didn't have the proper infrastructure, so we moved into the digitalization, and now we can move also into further developmental category of infrastructure. So we have to work with this, and we have to cope with the world. Otherwise, we will be lagged behind.
Amen to that, Dr. Zenab. One final question regarding the role of the private sector. To stress the importance of the role of the private sector, it was mentioned more than once. In brief, if you permit me, how do you see this?
Of course, the private sector should be one of the biggest players with the government. I think with the facilities that the private sector is getting right now, and since a while from the government. So I think that the private sector has the chance, and a big chance, to be one of the main players on the ground on these different projects, in these different visions and missions that the government would like to work on. So the private sector should be prepared and should be also work on themselves and try to, what I can say, use the opportunities well and use also the facilities that have been given by the government to them.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Zenab Sadek, Professor of Economics, I really enjoyed our discussion, and we are going to leave you with a promise to have you in more of our episodes and in many programs on Nile TV International. Thank you very much for your input, and have a very good day. Well, by this we come to the end of our episode of our breakfast show. But this is a reminder. Yesterday, it was the first day of the very big conference in the new administrative capital. a story of a nation between vision and achievements, attended by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and being held under his auspices. Also, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Medbouli and a number of ministers and top executives were there. The conference is going to last for 3 days, and we are going to follow minute by minute all the sessions of the conference on Nile TV International, so stay tuned. And for more details, please log on to www.nileinternational.net. Many thanks for watching. This was Nurmeen Abdurrahman.